Hello, dear friends. It's time to talk today about economic signals that are precursors to a financial reset. Opinion piece. Signs of the reset. Nobody knows when it will happen. Some believe it will be in August. August 15th would be the start of a critical period. September 18 would be a turning point. September 24 would be another turning point. US suffers highest inflation in 13 years. New quantum reality of peace and prosperity. Zimbabwe to settle its debt with the Paris Club. US tests emergency alert system. Peter Schiff says markets are moving forward in a fantasy. July budget deficit reaches $302 billion. US inflation remains at 5.4%, highest in 13 years. Hackers steal 600 million in digital tokens. US star wage has become $15 an hour. Let's start. Some friends constantly ask me when the global financial reset will occur. The question is absurd because no one knows and no one will know until the day we all see it. Those who know something, because they are on the hook, cannot talk because they signed confidentiality contracts. So they have their lips sealed and gashed about it. It's also called a gash contract. I'm also asked for news on the subject when there is hardly any reliable information coming out. The websites that give updates are lying throughout their teeth because the only reality is that the 9 Chinese elders who own 90% of the world's gold have not signed anything yet, as long as a number of requirements that I am aware of but can imagine with the word cleanup are not met. All we can do is watch the signs, the same as the ancient Roman augurs did when they tried to divine the future by the way the birds flew. The first sign seems to be the fall in the price of gold, which has already occurred, although it would then rise again. The second sign will be rising inflation in the US, which is happening now. It remains at 5.4%, which is the highest inflation in 13 years. The third sign would be the Zimbabwe's promise to settle its debt with the Paris Club, which has been declared. The fourth sign, which has already occurred, is the impossibility of issuing more treasury bonds as advanced yesterday by Immaculada. The fifth sign would be the increase in interest rates, which has not yet occurred. The sixth sign for intervention would be the mandatory issue, which has not yet occurred worldwide level. I talked about the floods, earthquakes, forest fires, and protests that are taking place around the world, which can also be considered as signs of the times. Physical signs too obvious to ignore. The alarmist climate report fuels the hysteria, but saving the planet is really about the elites saving themselves. Prediction. So today I am not going to play fortune teller, but to give news that could be signs that something is moving. If you ask my personal opinion, it is possible that this year we may see something a little big, but nothing is certain. The only thing I have is the prediction of the contactee Cobra, which I am recalling now. From August 15th to October 18th, Eris and Pluto will be in an almost exact square. This would be the most powerful astrological aspect of the year, and would signify a battle between two timelines, the positive ascension timeline and the negative reset timeline. This period could look worrisome, as the dark forces will do everything in their power to continue their long-term plan to impose their will, according to the 2012 portal of the Intelligence Center for the Victory of Light. Right in the middle of this August to October period of the Eris-Pluto square, certain major operations of the forces of light would be completed, and around September 18th, Saint Sophia's Day, the dark forces could begin to finally lose power on the physical plane on the surface of the planet. These are two key countries in this process, France and the USA. Economist Marty Armstrong expects a turning point on September 23-24 in France, but it would not yet be the time of the event. More and more people are aware that only two companies, BlackRock and Vanguard, would control most of the world's financial assets. BlackRock would be the financial force behind the World Economic Forum's rate reset plans in Davos, Switzerland. Their goal would be to massively buy real estate from people so that you owe nothing and you are happy, in quotes. The real reason the dark side would be in such a hurry to force their great reset is because they would fear a possible magnetic pole shift according to speculation. Peace and prosperity. According to an uncorroborated message from an unknown source posted by Kerry Cassidy on Telegram, the key week would be here and would end on Friday the 13th, which could be a Black Friday for the more superstitious. But we have had this sort of thing many times before, and it is likely a fiction meant to entertain the impatient, or rather frustrate them if it doesn't come true. US tests National Emergency Alert System today. At 14:20 ET Wednesday, the nationwide test of emergency alert system will be conducted for radios, televisions and cell phones. The purpose of the August 11th test is to ensure that the systems continue to be effective means of warning the public about emergencies, particularly those nationwide, as FEMA News release said. The most optimistic people say that everything is ready to happen in August, but I don't believe it, and I hope I'm wrong. When this happens, you will know that we're just around the corner from a new world, folks. But don't get mad and don't panic at all. This is necessary, yes. It really must happen this way for us to make the transition to a bright future. It is part of the script and part of the last phase of the harrowing movie, which was necessary to awaken the masses. This will ensure that everyone is safely located at home and can witness the historic moment that reveals all the truths and cover-ups throughout the emergency broadcast system. The potential implications nationally and globally could be quite complicated, so things should be aligned with protocols. Yes, there are many consequences if things are not done with precision and perfection. This is the practice that is executed before real people can see the answers and the precision of what is to come, which would change humankind. Humankind and planet Earth are simultaneously moving into a quantum reality consciousness system of peace and prosperity. It would be the end of financial slavery and the old human consciousness. The old systems of government, education, finance, health, commerce, etc. would be dismantled and replaced. We would have a new gold-backed currency. Financial fantasy. Peter Schiff says that the markets are moving forward in a fantasy. We have seen a sharp sell-off in both gold and silver. Gold was down over $40 an ounce on Friday and plunged in early trading on Sunday. Meanwhile, the dollar experienced a sharp rise, along with a rise in long-term treasury yields. The catalyst for this sharp move was a better-than-expected jobs report and the expectation that it will prompt a quick turn toward monetary tightening by the Fed. In his podcast, Peter Schiff said that the markets are driven by fantasy, not economic reality, in his opinion. Peter acknowledged that the jobs report was better than expected, but not so strong enough to justify the sell-off in gold and silver and the rally in the dollar. If you really look at the jobs number, but you also look at all the other economic data that came out, not just on the day but also on the week, all of this data continues to support a weaker dollar and a stronger gold price. But markets are not about fundamentals. Fundamentals have nothing to do with this market. This market is based on hype. It is based on momentum. And it is based on algorithms. Close quotes. Finance. US inflation holds at 5.4% in July, highest in 13 years. Annual US inflation held at 5.4% in July, the highest since August 2008, supported by rising wages and job creation. According to data released Wednesday by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, consumer prices rose 0.5% in July, 0.4 less than the previous month. It is time for all of us because inflation is really kicking in. US July budget deficit hits $302 billion. The government on Wednesday posted a $302 billion budget deficit in July, a record for the month, as aid spending remained elevated while revenues returned to a more normal pace after a delayed tax deadline in July. Fed reduces asset purchases. The economy is growing and the labor market is recovering, indicating it's almost time for the Federal Reserve to start withdrawing its support, several central bank officials said Wednesday. What they didn't say is that they can't print more money. Hikes on Wall Street. Wednesday trading day left another record high for Wall Street's main stock market indicators. For the second consecutive day, the Dow Jones renewed its highs, up 0.62%. And on the other side, the S&P 500 Standard & Poor's railed 0.25%. On the other hand, the Nasdaq 100 fell by 0.17%, and that's all. US wants OPEC to boost oil production. The US seeks to ask the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries to increase crude oil production to control gasoline prices and curb shortages. Senate approves Biden's colossal infrastructure plan. The Senate on Tuesday approved the massive $1.2 billion infrastructure investment plan, a major victory for the Democratic president, who will have to wait for a final vote in the lower chamber before claiming victory. Foreign investment falls in Ibero-America. In the serious context of the health, economic and social crisis generated, Latin America and the Caribbean received $105.48 billion in foreign direct investment in 2020, 34.7% less than in 2019. 51% less than the historical record reached in 2012 and the lowest amount since 2010. Zimbabwe to settle Paris Club debt. Zimbabwe plans to start paying Paris Club creditors to settle its $3.9 billion long-term debt in the second half of this year. The club's permanent members include Spain, the United Kingdom, the United States, Switzerland, Sweden, Russia, Norway, the Netherlands, South Korea, Japan, Germany, Australia, and Italy. Cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin rises. The price of Bitcoin has risen 20% in a week to 46,637, recorded on Monday, raising the market value of the currency above $860 billion. Hackers steal $600 million in digital tokens. The cryptocurrency industry has suffered one of the biggest attacks. The attack of Polynetwork could be one of the biggest heists suffered by the cryptocurrency industry. Hackers returned $260 million to cryptocurrency platform after massive theft. The hackers behind one of the largest cryptocurrency thefts in history have returned more than a third of the $613 million in digital coins they stole. Jobs. The lack of workers is starting to show up in the wages of waiters and stockers. Joe Biden gave the key to employers in trouble. In quotes, pay them more. $15 an hour is becoming the star wage. However, the official minimum wage in the USA is still $7.25 an hour. More and more companies are admitting that they are having trouble finding employees. The number of unfilled vacancies exceeds 10 million in July, an all-time high. Extreme job interviews are on the rise. All job seekers welcome an invitation to a second interview because it signals a company's interest. A third interview may seem even more positive or even the trigger for an offer. But what happens when the process drags on to a fourth, fifth, or sixth round, and it's not even clear when the final interview will be? Spain. Spain accelerates its growth. The composite leading indicator rises by 34 hundredths of a percentage points, 3 times that of the other major development countries. However, it's still below the 100 points that mark the long-term average. Job offers for telecommuting soar. In 2019, there were 1.5 million Spaniards working remotely. With the crisis, the figure soared to 3.5 million. Only France surpasses Spain in this increase. The average price of electricity in the wholesale market has been set for today, Thursday, in the heat wave at 115.83 euros megawatt hour, which beats the historical record for the fourth consecutive day and exceeds the previous one by 1.6%. The Association of Electricity Companies has proposed decoupling the regulated electricity tariff from wholesale electricity market prices, currently at historic highs, to avoid volatility in household bills. The high wholesale market prices are occurring throughout Europe and are due to the extraordinary increase in the price of natural gas, 5 times higher than a year ago, and the rise in the price of CO2 rights. Sanchez prepares a tax on the use of air conditioning. In the middle of the heat wave, with rising electricity and involved in the dispute over the tax model, the PP party denounced the hidden agenda on the government to impose a tax axe. The IBEX recancers 8,900 points with the resurgence of the tourism sector. After 2 days of apathy and low volume, the selective manages to close at levels it has not reached since July 5th. The CPI data in the US has served as a boost to the major European indices, which have closed in positive territory. BBVA, Unicaja and Bankinter soar in fee income. The high level of mutual fund, insurance and share trading activity means that fees account for more than 30% of bank income. Ecology. Dolphins are approaching the beaches of Spain and Portugal. With the decrease in pollution and maritime traffic during the crisis, dolphins are approaching us again. Tourists and locals have enjoyed them in the Tagus River in Lisbon, Portugal. Dolphins take over the Bosphorus during the confinement in Turkey. Biologists and tour guides say they are seeing dolphins much more frequently lately. Hundreds of dead fish found in Romanian river. The discovery of dead fish has prompted Romania to launch an investigation into water quality. The citizens of the towns of Hunedoara and Aninoasa have expressed their concern about what happened in the Jiu River and have asked the authorities for explanations. Afghanistan. The Spanish government will bring back Afghan interpreters in the face of the Taliban threat. The government is finalizing an operation to bring back to Spain the interpreters who collaborated with Spanish soldiers in Afghanistan and who, after the withdrawal of the troops, remained in the Asian country, where the Taliban have conquered 7 regional capitals in 1 week. Germany suspends deportations of Afghans due to Taliban offensive. The advance of the Taliban in Afghanistan is too disturbing to look away. Germany and the Netherlands have decided to temporarily suspend deportations of undocumented Afghan migrants. Taliban capture 9th provincial capital in Afghanistan. The Taliban captured Faizabad in the northern province of Badakhshan, the 9th regional capital to fall to the insurgent group in less than a week, as the Afghan government continues to add unprecedented defeats. Taliban control 1st Army Corps. The Taliban on Wednesday gained control of the 217th Pamir Army Corps in the northern province of Kunduz, becoming the first Afghan Army Corps to fall into the insurgents' hands in 2 decades of war. California's largest active fire has already burnt nearly 200,000 acres, the largest of dozens of active wildfires in the state of California. Has already burnt nearly 200,000 acres, and the firefighters have made little progress in containing it over the past few hours. Algeria is facing fire for the 3rd day. Algeria is fighting for the 3rd consecutive day against the 100 fires focused in the north of the country, mainly in the region of Kabylia in the northwest, which have caused the death of 69 people, including 28 military, and had led the President of the Republic to decree 3 days of national mourning from Thursday. Also in Greece, exhausted Greek firefighters battled blazes for the 9th straight day Wednesday amid sweltering temperatures that also helped fuel wildfires in Algeria and southern Italy. Earthquakes. Strong earthquake hits Philippines Pacific coast. Strong 7.2 magnitude earthquake struck off the Pacific coast of the Philippines. Local authorities issued a tsunami warning, which was later cancelled. The earthquake occurred at a depth of 10 kilometers and at a distance of only 66 kilometers from the island of Mindanao. US produces 3.9 magnitude seismic event by detonating 20 tons of TNT near world's most expensive aircraft carrier. The Navy has completed shock testing of the aircraft carrier USS Gerald Ford, with a 3rd explosion conducted right next to what is the world's most expensive and advanced ship. This 3rd event, which took place on August 8th in the Atlantic, 166 kilometers off the coast of Florida, involved the detonation of 20 tons of explosives near the starboard side of the ship. Although the explosion was recorded by the Geological Survey as a magnitude 3.9 event, the ship's commander reported that the damage was less than expected. Large oil spill off Russia's southern Black Sea coast. Russian authorities launched a criminal investigation after a large amount of oil leaked into the Black Sea off Russia's southern coast, covering an area of about 80 square kilometers. Indonesia suspends two-finger virginity tests on military recruits. The Indonesian Army Chief of Staff has confirmed that the country's armed forces will no longer conduct virginity tests on female recruits after criticism that the practice is cruel, degrading, and has no scientific validity. Science. Barnacle-inspired rapid wound sealing glue created. US researchers have developed a rapid sealing paste that can stop organ bleeding independent of clothing and is inspired by the ductility and sticky substance of barnacles to adhere to rocks, birds, and other marine animals. Elon Musk wants to put ads in space. Musk is partnering with Canadian technology company Geometric Energy Corporation to make space ads a thing of the future. SpaceX and Musk's GSC are working together to try to create a satellite called CubeSat that would be used to promote ads, art, and logos. Without mouth, legs, or brain, but able to eat, move, and learn, the International Space Station is preparing to receive an atypical visitor, the Physarum polycephalum, popularly known as Blob. It's not Bob, Blob. It is a spongy, yellow-colored organism that has fascinated biologists for years for its peculiar characteristics, and that on August 10th entered orbit to be part of an educational experiment led by French astronaut Thomas Pesquet. The aim of the experiment is to observe the effects of weightlessness on the microorganism and to compare the behavior of the specimens on Earth with those sent into space. The recent outburst of the RS Fuji Nova, located in the equatorial belt constellation of Ophiuchus, approximately 4,566 light-years from Earth, is so bright that it can be seen with the naked eye, reports Science Alert. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.